Broadcasting. Live. From the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Marketing Above All podcast. Your source for all things, marketing and total world domination. This is Marketing Above All, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and listening. I've got something today that I hope you're really going to like, but as always, I'm hoping that you like what I'm presenting and throwing at you each and every single day. What if there was a tactic that you could essentially market to people with ease that have the highest likelihood of buying your product or service? Now, there's a couple of different ways to do it, but there's one in particular that very, very few local businesses are leveraging, probably have candidly even heard of. So that's why I'm so excited for today. I mean, I eat, sleep, breathe marketing. I love this stuff. I love driving value. I want you to do better. I want you to make more money, have a better life, a better business, whatever you're aiming to achieve. And I firmly believe that you can do everything by nailing your marketing. Today's tactic is geofencing. So with geofencing, what this allows you to do is put a virtual fence around a particular area. So let me give you some examples. So I've mentioned a few times funeral homes. I like to try and find the businesses that are more challenging to market. I mean, there's some that are a little bit easier, that have, I guess, a more fun product or service. And funeral homes, obviously, it's not fun, but obviously it's always going to be around. So you might be thinking, well, how could I use this tactic for a funeral home? So with geofencing, what this allows you to do is to place a virtual fence with, give or take, about a 1/4 mile margin of error around, again, an area or a business. So with funeral homes, you could geofence all the different churches that are in your area. So if you know that people are more likely to be a customer or a referral if they go to church, what you could do is put that virtual fence. And then what ends up happening is when someone walks into that area that you've kind of mentioned, and again, I'll talk through some more of the specifics in a minute, trying to give you the high level to start with, because it's a little bit tough to explain. But when you kind of nail it and think about it, it really is a deadly tactic. Deadly in a good way, of course. Probably shouldn't use the word deadly when I'm talking about funeral homes. So let's strike that one. So if you put this virtual fence around all the different churches, anyone that walks into that area that has location services on, or they start using the Wi-Fi, what ends up happening is it pixels their cell phone. And then when that particular person then uses their cell phone and goes to somewhere like Facebook or Google or Fox or CNN or different places that allow advertising, you can have your advertisements show up. So they walk into this virtual fence, later in the day they go onto Facebook, your ad for your funeral home could show up. And with funeral homes, they're more obviously branding ads because you're only going to call a funeral home when there's an absolute need, a death in the family. But it's that attention, it's that brand recognition for a type of business like that. Now let me give you some other examples. Let's say you're a bank or a credit union or someone that offers credit cards. You could essentially put a virtual fence around Target, malls, Kohl's, big department stores. And when someone walks into that fence and then visits Facebook or Google or somewhere else, you could have an ad that says, Don't forget to use our plastic because the rates are better than most big box stores, as an example. You could geofence your competition. Let's say you have competing restaurants. If anyone walks into Applebee's, for example, and your Chili's, you could geofence all the Applebee's and then run a special because you know that they've walked into Applebee's, so their likelihood of being a potential customer for your business is pretty high because they're pretty similar. And then they're seeing your ads. You could geofence particular events if you know there are certain events. If people go to the zoo, for example, and you're the aquarium locally, everyone that walks into that virtual fence in the zoo, they tend to, if they like animals, they're going to want to visit the aquarium. So what you're doing is you're building these pixels. It's all about these pixels and cookies of potential customers. And then what they're doing is you're then leveraging paid traffic, which we'll talk about in future episodes. So there's a lot of different tools and technology to use. Those can get to be a little bit complicated, but there's self-service tools. There's ways to do this through Google, for example, where you can set these things up. But the challenge that I've got for you today isn't to necessarily directly start this tactic because it does take a little bit more work and thought process. But what I want you to do is make a list of all the different places that your customers hang out. All the different places. And then I want you to start to prioritize which are the 3 or 4 or 5 that are the most likely for those people to become a customer. If there's a Chamber of Commerce, I could geofence the Chamber of Commerce and then run ads to those people because I know they're going to be small business owners to watch this podcast, for example. Gyms, you could geofence gyms if you have a nutrition company, personal training. So there's so many different ways to start to think about it, but what I'm looking to do is to kind of challenge you a little bit just to start thinking about it and starting to think through how can I leverage this tactic? Because there's still more steps to it. And again, this is all about simplification, taking action. I'm not going to give you 64 steps to complete in a 10-minute show. I want to give you some momentum and then continue to give you more steps as we go throughout the process. So 50% of the battle is simply identifying the places and then leveraging tools to then put that virtual fence. You don't even have to start running ads to these people. What the tools and technology will do is they'll start to cookie those people that are starting to go into that virtual fence. And then from there, we'll talk through strategies in future episodes about leveraging Facebook ads or Google ads or Bing or Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, how to craft the right ads, direct response ads, special offers, all of that stuff. So for today, I want you to think about that virtual fence. What are the 2, 3, 4, 5 places that you could put a virtual fence to know that your target customer is very likely to be walking in to one of those locations? Now, there's only a very small amount of limitations where you can't geofence, like they don't allow you to geofence schools, so where minors are hanging out, for example. But gyms, the zoos, the aquariums, for example, restaurants, malls, department stores, used car lots. If you're a realtor, you could be geofencing all the different new housing developments and say, run an ad that says, considering building a home, it's much less expensive to buy an existing home. There's so many opportunities with geofencing. Take some action, brainstorm those 2, 3, 4, 5 best places, and I'll give you more pieces of the puzzle in future episodes. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Marketing Above All. Now get out there, make a change, and take some action. And hey, don't forget to leave a 5-star review and tell all your friends this is the greatest marketing podcast ever. 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 We look forward to seeing you here tomorrow.